Sometimes a TV show gets cancelled after one season. A significant portion of the fan base are unhappy, and it lives on as a cult classic. Maybe the most famous example is Firefly. Just 14 episodes and one movie, and 20 years later, people are still talking about it. A related phenomenon is that show you love that just went on too long, specifically something that had an epic first season and continued, maybe for one more season, maybe for 10, but never managed to capture the magic of the debut. And maybe this longevity is worse than getting cancelled after one season, because people see the declining viewer figures, they read the bad reviews, and maybe some revisionism begins in their mind. Maybe that first season they remember watching, maybe it wasn't so good after all. Consider The Walking Dead. Yes, it's a massive franchise. Yes, there are episodes and even stretches of episodes which are really good, but you have to sit through a lot of filler to get to them. And among the jokes about the boredom on the farm in Season 2, many people forget the first season was tight, nerve-wracking and efficient storytelling. I think True Detective has suffered something similar to this, and so has the subject of this video, Altered Carbon. I'll briefly talk about what went wrong with Season 2 toward the end, but for most of the video, I'm going to talk about the pilot of Season 1, what I like about it, where it succeeds. At its heart, I feel Altered Carbon is a success because, as good science fiction should, it wholeheartedly embraces its central concept, and spends the pilot and the season exploring it. Despite being set in the future, despite using technology we can currently only dream of, it's concerned with what it means to be human and what the boundaries of that are. The central piece of technology this is explored through is the stack. This is a device into which a human consciousness can be uploaded and then transferred into another artificially grown body, known in universe as a sleeve. This is reminiscent of the conundrum of the transporters in Star Trek. In that show, a person gets atomically disassembled and reassembled, leading people to wonder if this is the same person, or if it's some kind of cloning horror show, like with Hugh Jackman's character in The Prestige. Altered Carbon pushes this concept further, positing the idea of a removable brain, making the body disposable, replaceable, cheap in a moral sense, though expensive in a financial one, and used as an expression of social class and as a financial opportunity, and no doubt in other ways as well. This idea gets explored throughout the series and gets set up well in the pilot episode. The main character, Takeshi Kovacs, is reawoken into what he learns is a combat sleeve, primed to be able to use the military skills that Kovacs wielded to great effect in his previous life. He's just spent centuries in prison, not even in a cell, just nothingness, not even awareness, as his stack was not spun up, in the parlance of the show. If I woke up 250 years in the future, everything changed, I might feel that waking up is a punishment all by itself. Is oblivion an appropriate punishment for his crimes? Is oblivion an appropriate punishment for any crimes? Plus, when he wakes up, Kovacs doesn't even own his own body. He has only been returned to life for the benefit of Lawrence Bancroft, a Meth, a corporate titan, a member of a functionally immortal upper class who live literally above the clouds, away from the Blade Runner hellhole the surface has become. Kovacs is offered a choice by Bancroft: investigate and solve a murder, Bancroft's murder, in another sleeve, and then receive his freedom and a very great deal of money. Or he could go back to prison and the oblivion of nothing for another 250 years, or however long it ends up being that time. He has one evening to think about it. To begin with, Kovacs is leaning towards the second option: get fucked up, get laid, go back on ice. We learn from him that coming back from the dead is a bitch every single time. So presumably people like him, people with skills, useful people, come and go as the Meth class need them. Even as we see Kovacs descend into self-indulgence, the show plays with the idea of what it means for the human body to become a disposable commodity. When he rejects one particular stripper, she transforms her appearance in front of him, hoping this will arouse his interest. Back in the facility where Kovacs was brought back to life, spun up, we see a dead young girl re-sleeved in the body of an old woman, to the distress of her parents and the indifference of the staff, who explain they get the sleeve that's available, presumably unless they pay for the one they want. When we meet Detective Ortega, the extremely angry police detective who gets involved with Kovacs, we learn that murder victims get spun up as well, returned to life so they can be interviewed and testify in the trial. Human consciousness and physical presence dealt with in ways that are obviously morally questionable. These are all interesting ideas, and the writers do a good job of suggesting the existential horrors all of this implies. The characters in the show are fully on board with all this, the idea that they will come and go from the world at different points, that the gaps between could be very short or very long, that it offers opportunities for making money, and in the case of Kovacs, completing missions that once upon a time ended in failure. Everyone's very aware that life with stacks comes at a cost. There are some neo-Catholics in the show who believe that re-sleeving, the process of uploading yourself into a stack and putting that stack in a new body, sends the soul to hell. This is what reminds me of the Star Trek transporter conundrum. Can the human soul survive a digital upload process? Is the soul separate from the body? Is a specifically designed or altered body, like for a sex worker or for a soldier, can that be human in the same way as a naturally born child? The main characters in the show, Kovacs, Bancroft, Ortega, and so on, fully embrace the world of stacks and sleeves, fully embrace the commodification of the human body. Long, lingering shots of numerous characters showing off their body like it's not really theirs, and in some cases, like with Kovacs, it isn't. As I already mentioned, on Kovacs' first night back in the world, Bancroft offers him a job: investigate the own man's murder. His initial response is to refuse the job, and he spends the evening drinking, smoking, and doing other narcotics. By this point, we've already seen the body Joel Kinnaman has for this role, and if I looked like this, I'd do everything I could to stay in shape. I wouldn't ruin it through casual hedonism. At least I tell myself I'd have the self-discipline to not do that. And then you realise, in the universe, within the story, it doesn't matter in the slightest what happens to this body. It's not Takeshi Kovacs' body. It's a product, a tool, somebody else's product. If he damages it or destroys it, if the liver fails or the septum collapses, it doesn't matter to anyone, really. He can be put in another body. He cannot exist at all until some other rich person pulls him out of the grave. So this feels like a very clever concept. The show's very interested in ideas, while wearing them lightly and having lots of plot and character to explore. And visually, it's beautiful. Very Blade Runner. That's not snarky. It's like if your fantasy story, in some way, reminds people of Lord of the Rings. That can be a good thing, because Lord of the Rings is the best in the genre. And Blade Runner has kind of come to define cityscapes in science fiction. So I feel I'm giving a compliment here. We've got the chaos and the ugliness of the lower levels, and then the ethereal, unreachable beauty of the rich living above the clouds, physically and legally out of reach, with even the police needing to find excuses to go there. What else do I like about this first episode? Detective Ortega is a great contrast to the cooler and calmer Takeshi Kovacs. James Purefoy, playing Lawrence Bancroft, is pretty much always fun to watch. He knows how to push things a bit without chewing the scenery too much. The structure of the episode is interesting. There are several flashbacks to Kovacs' old life, previous sleeves. These add a nice sense of fracture to the story, suggest how much a re-sleeved person can live in the past, suggests how it can make life less coherent when people live different types of life. So you've got these different types of characters clashing. So I guess on the one hand, you've got characters who live regular lives, like the protesters. They live one life, they don't get re-sleeved. Then I guess you've got the Meths, who, like I say, are functionally immortal. They could live forever. Then you've got the people who come in and out, like Takeshi, and they have to readjust each time. They experience life in different ways, and then they come together and they kind of clash with each other. This gives the city and the story this huge sense of disconnection. Like, these different experiences, they even further alienate them from each other. So Altered Carbon Season 1, it's a really interesting piece of television and well worth a watch. I mentioned I would talk about Season 2 a bit, so here we go. First of all, I think changing the lead was a bad idea. Throughout Season 1, we do see, as I say, multiple versions of Takeshi Kovacs, but it's centred around the performance by Joel Kinnaman. And the decision to change the main actor for Season 2, for whatever reason that happened, it kind of stretches the concept of sleeves too far for me, and it doesn't feel like the same character. Secondly, it does kind of feel like there's not much left to say in the second season. The first season, there is a whole plot going on, but it's more about the sci-fi aspect of exploring the world, exploring the technology that is the attractive thing. Once it comes down to the envoys and their story and the war they fought, it's just a lot less interesting, at least for me. And lastly, I just don't think Anthony Mackie is charismatic enough to play lead roles. I think he's great as Falcon in the MCU. He's a great sidekick, but somehow that charisma he shows as Falcon seems to evaporate once he moves into being the lead. It's a really strange thing. I don't understand why it happens, but I just can't get invested when he's playing the main character. But as I say, I would definitely check out Season 1. Thanks for watching.